Meeting of the Planning Commission is now in order. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kate, may we have the roll call, please?
Gary Cunningham.
Here.
Doug Bryson.
Here.
Sean Keir.
Here.
Miles Schlesinger.
Here.
Patty Crone is excused, and Steve Griffiths.
Here. And we received the minutes earlier this week. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our May 1st meeting?
A motion we approve the minutes May 1st meeting.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes have passed. There are no public comments tonight, no final orders, no public hearings or deliberations, no old business, and a bit of new business. Deborah, would you like to talk about that?
The design guidelines? Yes, we are starting a new project. We may have mentioned it before. We have hired consultants to take a look at our design guidelines for commercial areas, and also we want them to include multifamily in their considerations. So they are going to get started very soon. We are going to put together a project advisory committee of about 12 people, and that will be various members of the community. We're looking for people. If there's somebody out there watching who has design expertise, then please contact us about that. We would like to fit you in. Otherwise, we have a number of people in mind, and we would like a liaison from the Planning Commission.
Well, I would like to suggest that we have Sean Keir serve as a liaison, since he's interested in design standards and is a local businessman. I think that would be great if you could. Well, are you willing to do that?
I am, and thank you.
Great. We look forward to hearing back from you when the committees start meeting.
I will tell you nothing.
And there'll be a total of 3 meetings, right?
Yeah.
It will be a total of 3 meetings. We hope to get this whole project completed by the fall of this year, by the end of the year, and the project advisory committee will meet 3 times. So it's not a long commitment, but it does involve looking over code. And so, that's maybe kind of challenging for people who are not used to reading it, but it's also, I think, going to be very interesting.
Real eye-opener. Thank you, Deborah.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
No Planning Commission
Mr. Chair,
training?
excuse me, if we could just back up for a minute. You mentioned there's no public comment. I just want to put in the record the reason there's no public comment is because there's no public here.
That's right.
Yes, that's good.
Thank you. No Planning Commission training this evening. Any reports and comments?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to have our planning department kind of give me as close to an exact number on what is affordable housing and what is workforce housing. Not necessarily right now. I'll give you a chance to digest that, but I want to have a number in my head, and I'm hoping that workforce housing somewhat takes into consideration the pay scale of our largest employer. So that, we're working with a number that really is doable for the people that actually have to live in that number.
Actually, it's based on the average family income for the city. So you include not only our largest employer, but theoretically all employers.
That sounds good.
Okay, we'll have that for you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Any others? Okay. And then future agenda items and next meetings. I think on June 19th, we'll have a discussion of the tsunami planning. Is that correct? And sign code revisions?
Yes,
Yes.
both of those things.
Okay. And then at our last meeting, we talked about housing issues and possibilities of maybe amending ordinances that affect housing, or coming up with some new ones. When can we continue that discussion?
Well, one thing, we're about to apply for a grant to have a code audit done, and the results of that, I think it's particularly important to do because someone can take a fresh look at our ordinances and see where there are things that might be impeding affordable housing. We can do some things before that's done, but there's actually, I'm not even sure the timetable for the money that we, spending the money on that, on having that work done. But it'll be over the course of the next several months.
Perhaps, isolating those that we could do without the code audit
Right,
being
yeah,
done and
yeah.
come back to
Yeah.
us with
One
that.
of the things is when we do something like that, we have to give written notice to people, and it's going to be citywide. So that gets pretty expensive. So I try not to do very many of those annually. So we got to figure out a strategy on that, exactly how to handle it.
All right, well, look forward to hearing from you on that then, yeah. And then we'll have a meeting on July 3rd, is that correct?
That's a question, isn't it, Kate? Oh, okay, right.
We have a hearing on the preliminary master plan for Lincoln Palisades.
You all plan to be here?
I do.
Okay, good. All right, and then we are...
July 3rd is...
Microphone.
It's a Tuesday.
July 3rd, I believe, is the fireworks display at the Regatta Park put on by the Devil's Lake Neighborhood Association. I don't know if that conflicts with our scheduled meeting.
We'll
because
be
it-
out before dark.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be a short hearing, I understand.
But that's great to know, too. Thank you for announcing that.
And we are shortly going to adjourn to take a driving tour of some city-owned properties. And Deborah, did you want to give us an introduction to that before we
Yes, I
take
have a
off?
short PowerPoint just to get you oriented. So, okay, let's see here. All right, this is the north end of the city. We're going to leave City Hall, and our first stop will be Hostetler Park, and then we will drive north to 22nd Avenue and on North Reef, just east of the skate park. We have some property for sale, and we also have property number 3 is, well, I guess I have pictures and more information about this, so I won't go
More
into
introduction.
detail. But at any rate, we start this way, we go up all the way to the north end of town, and then we'll come back down. And by the time we get back to City Hall, we'll decide whether we want to try to do the south end also. So, okay, this is Northeast 1st Street and Hostetler Park.
Yeah, excuse me just a second, Deb. A little explanation. The majority of the properties we're looking at are the 8 properties that the city is offering for sale and development through the request for expressions of interest process. We got expressions of interest on all the properties. We've selected, in some of the cases, who it is we want to enter into negotiations with. In other cases, we haven't done that yet. And then we're also looking at some other properties just so you can get more familiar with them specifically.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Anything that has a sheet like this prepared is one of those properties that has been offered for sale. So Hostetler Park is one of them. It's right across the highway from the Dee River Wayside. You will see that as we go. The second one is just north of 22nd Avenue, northeast, and you can see it's right next to the skate park and the Curtis Ball Diamonds. The 25th Street properties are just again north of the Curtis Park Ball Diamonds and also east of the, down here is the Episcopal Church. And then the fourth one is Fernwood. It's up in the Villages at Cascade Head. And since we'll be up there, this is Fernwood right here. And then we're also going to just have a peek at the location of the Holly Farm, which is the property that the school purchased for a future school. We can't really see that. We won't be walking into it, but you can see a gate at the entrance, so you get a sense of what the location is. And then we have this big curve in Northeast Devils Lake Boulevard, and we're just going to point out that this is where future commercial would be in the latest version of our plan for the villages. And then we're going to have to loop back down and come up the other way to see Lincoln Palisades 3, which is right here, and it's under construction. You approved that maybe a year ago. And so it's kind of interesting to see because the street's in. And they've also done this connector piece between Lincoln Palisades 3 and Northeast Devils Lake Boulevard, but it's not really open for traffic yet. So the Lincoln Palisades 4 that you will be reviewing for your July 3rd meeting is right along this street, and we'll just drive down that street, but we won't be discussing it because it's a subject of a hearing that's coming up. And so then the next one will come back south on 15th Street is a piece of property for sale. And then the last one before we get back to City Hall is this, it's an old fire station on Southwest 4th Street, a small property that's for sale. And then, had enough? If not, we have more. So then we'll go south. And so we'll go all the way down to 51st to see the properties for sale between 51st and 50th. We'll go over and take a quick look at the Taft Park, future Taft Park location. This is where the old Taft Elementary School was, but the buildings have all been removed, so basically you'll be looking at raw land. Then as we come back north, we'll stop at 32nd Street. Oh, and then we'll stop at Foothills Boulevard, the south end of Foothills Boulevard. But I also have more slides about that. So here's 51st. 50th is up here, 51st down here, and this is the turnaround at the end of 51st. There's quite a bit of property here that can be developed. Here's the future park site. 32nd is this in the southeast quadrant of the intersection, and remember that intersection was realigned when we got the traffic control light and did the other highway improvement. And then the south end of Foothills Boulevard is right here, just north of the intersection of Fleet and 32nd Avenue. And as you'll remember, the Foothills Boulevard is alternative to the highway, and it starts from the traffic control light and extends all the way north, east of the highway, and will eventually connect with our city streets that take us all the way up to East Devils Lake Road.
Right.
Yes, Miles?
I've got a question. When you go to 51st Street,
Yes.
you can wind up, going by the old Taft School, you can wind up at the present school that's built on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to drive on gravel, narrow roads all the way to 32nd Street, I believe.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you can.
And actually, you can drive on paved roads, as for that matter. Let's see if I didn't include enough. But if with the future Taft Park, we can wind around on Southeast Inlet. We can go up 48th. And then you get to High School Boulevard.
Yeah.
And once you get to the high school, you can get on back on Fleet, and it'll take you right to that point that would be the south end of the intersection of Fleet and 32nd, and that would be the south end of Foothills Boulevard.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm remembering correctly. So
Right.
So where the road ends at 32nd, that is where Foothill Boulevard begins. I presume.
Okay, well, and we have to decide, you know, what we want to name Foothills Boulevard. But here's the new traffic control light right at the intersection of the highway and 32nd. And then you can see that it's also the south end of Foothills Boulevard. Right here is where it would intersect with Fleet, and then you just follow it all the way up. The high school is right down here
Yeah.
in this map.
I had a snack with David Gomberg and told him about your plans because I think it's terrific, and more important than that, it provides another arterial to get all the way to the golf course area and connect the town with an alternative means. It's not a bypass,
Right.
but it could be a neighborhood street,
Yes.
but it fills what I think is a definite necessity during the busy season of the year, and I would like to see Mr. Gomberg get some funds for us to use in starting the development of that, because it serves a great purpose for the community in having a second arterial north and south, and
Absolutely.
we can't expect growth to occur and housing of every level to occur without a traffic system that will support that.
One of the interesting things about this, and the difficult things about getting this Foothills Boulevard started, is here is the starting point. Right away, you have to go over a wetlands, so you know it would involve a bridge, and that property is owned by the Spyglass Ridge Housing Partnership.
Northwest Housing.
And they are, you know, providers of affordable housing. And so we are going to be working with them. We're also going to be working with some of these other property owners along here who are interested in developing housing. And there is a grant program that's that we're going to be applying for in the next couple months that you know, could offer us enough money to do this if we're successful, but it's a federal program. So we're hoping to write a really great application that they can't refuse. Hopefully, you know, we could, and if we can get that money, it would be a great start to this whole neighborhood development.
It's very encouraging to hear that progress.
Yeah.
Deborah, what part of that picture is land that's not currently Lincoln City that we'd have to annex?
Okay, this, let's see, that's a good question, because right along here, all of this out here is in the county, except for a little bit right here at the intersection with 23rd, and then this is all county until you get down to Charter, and, well, no, you get to there's a car repair place. There's the glass place, Always Glass. Something else is.
Right on the
Growth
highway, yeah.
gates.
Okay.
Okay, I guess my question to further push
Uh-huh.
that is, what complications do we bring on ourselves if that property is not city property when we start this process versus maybe thinking about annexing it before we go if it's going to be a problem?
Well, the south end is all in the city. The south, probably at least eighth of a mile, is in the city, and it includes the property that's owned by Spyglass, and also Ryan Knott owns property, and the Schwab family owns property on the other side of the road. So up until we get to the north end of their properties, we're in the city. And when we get further north, I don't think it's going to be an issue for this. And we have, once we apply for it, if we're successful, we need to do all our preliminary studies and that kind of thing, and environmental studies We have until 2020 to do that. We have until 2025 to actually complete the construction. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. And if we get approved, we'll have time to deal with any of those issues.
I guess what I'm trying to make sure that the city doesn't put a lot of money into something that we don't have ultimate control of, making sure it finishes, so that we're not putting money into an effort that's going to get halfway done and die.
The key thing there is that the property owners that aren't in the city in general would want to be in the city once their property is available for development. And the good thing about having this plan in place is that we will know what to zone them into at the time of annexation. So actually, it's a good step to be out in front of it. And in fact, our comprehensive plan will be covering the entire urban growth boundary as well as within the city limits.
Again, I don't have a problem with planning. I have a problem with committing money until we know we're going to get the horizon.
What it makes is that property developable. And the owners that we're talking with want their property to be developed. And if a road through there like that is a huge boon to them. And so it's
You don't see them being apprehensive about that.
I've seen them being enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. All during the planning process, we have been communicating with those owners, and they've been very enthusiastic about the planning process and the product that we ended up with, so.
Well, thank you for the introduction,
Yes,
Deborah,
we need to
and
get out on the
let's
road, don't we?
Get on the road, yeah. So we are adjourning and recessing for a driving tour of Lincoln City properties. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah.
You're welcome.